The bilateral negotiations, which you mentioned, that President Obama and President Medvedev agreed to resume in London, will proceed ahead rapidly. There are already early meetings scheduled. Secretary Clinton has met with the Russian foreign minister on this, in part on this subject. There's a bit of a deadline in that by its terms, the START I treaty expires on December 5th of this year. Now it can be extended for a 5-year period by a simple exchange of notes. It doesn't have to go to parliaments. But neither side seems to want to do that. Both sides want to have a more far-reaching treaty by lowering the limits and also changing the counting rules and the counting rules, how you judge how many weapons there are on each side, and also some of the verification arrangements. There's a very real question as to whether that will be possible by December 5th. In order to bring this agreement into force in time for the December 5th deadline, it will have to reach the United States Senate at least by the 1st of August. And that's not very far from now, because the Senate will take time in reviewing it before it approves. I believe it would approve a follow-on START agreement. So it's difficult to say whether the Obama administration will proceed with the more ambitious agenda for START, recognizing that they'll probably have to have a simple extension at the end of the year to continue the negotiations into next year and perhaps even the year after that. To make the changes that at least have been discussed, I think would take 2 to 3 years to negotiate. On the other hand, the administration may decide to not be as ambitious and maybe only have a small reduction, have a replacement treaty in force by December 5th, and then proceed to the next phase of bilateral negotiations. Now, that's not the way the president put it in Prague. He spoke of only 2 phases. First phase, deep bilateral cuts, and the second phase, bringing in Britain, France, and China for an expanded 5-power negotiation on nuclear weapons, which would aim for lower levels. With respect to the test ban, which I think is even more important because the future viability of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the most important international security treaty that exists or is ever likely to exist, its viability depends on progress on the disarmament side of the basic bargain of the treaty. This treaty has been languishing, and as far as the U.S. is concerned, in the Senate for 10 years. Nearly 150 countries have now ratified it. It's very important for the United States to move ahead on this. The problem here is that under the U.S. Constitution, in order for a treaty to be ratified, the Senate has to approve it by a 2/3 vote. The Democrats currently have probably 59 votes of the 100 senators. They need 67. So they need 8 Republicans. And of late, the Republicans have been opposing everything that the Obama administration has been doing, no matter what it is. So whether those 8 votes can be obtained is quite uncertain. Senator Kyle of Arizona, who was one of the principal opponents to test ban in 1999, when it was defeated, is still there and is actively organizing the opposition. It seems to me that if the Obama administration proceeds ahead with hearings, Senate hearings, to lay out its case, present its case, and then perhaps is willing to negotiate with some of the Republicans to see what their price might be to support CTBT. Perhaps it can be achieved. I hope that it can be achieved in time for ratified by the 2010 review conference. If the U.S. ratifies CTBT, I think China and Israel will come along reasonably soon, and probably, maybe after some diplomatic discussions, India and then Pakistan. North Korea will remain, but I'm sure there's a way to find, there's a way to resolve that issue. So in my view, U.S. ratification is critical to entry into force. On some of the other measures, a possible treaty to eliminate the production of fissile material for weapons, that's been languishing in the Conference on Disarmament since the early 1990s. It's been blocked by India and Pakistan largely. Also recently, in the past administration, the United States declared it was not verifiable, and that added an additional element of difficulty. I think that problem will go ahead, but the problem with India and Pakistan will remain. There will be a Pentagon report, a nuclear posture report, in December of 2009. The last two, I believe, posture reports in 2001 and in 1997, I think it was, 6 or 7, both moved away from the idea that nuclear weapons have only the role to deter other nuclear weapons, which is my very strong belief is they're the only remaining role of nuclear weapons, to deter other nuclear weapons. And those two reports indicated that nuclear weapons could be used to deter the use of chemical and biological weapons, which in past decades never was the case. That was a new introduction in the 90s and then also in the last administration. I hope that the posture reports, the new posture report eliminates that role for nuclear weapons. And if somehow it could go beyond that and suggest a no first use policy for the United States, which it's for a long time been my view very much in the interests of the United States and also in the interests of NATO. Well, I know that there's a strong desire to reduce to the 1,000 level. But it may be that that will only be possible for both sides, perhaps, if the counting rules are changed, so that it's not so that too many systems don't have to be destroyed to reach the 1,000 level. And that also will strengthen the NPT much more, because what the NPT in part is all about is delegitimizing nuclear weapons, indicating that states no longer depend on them for their security. Now, President Obama in Prague said the United States would reduce the role that nuclear weapons play in U.S. defense posture. That's very important for the NPT. A level of 1,000 won't obviously do that. Much lower numbers are required, and we can't reach those. Those cannot be reached without the participation of the others.